Yes. Hello, everybody. I am super excited to be here today talking to Rose Tursi and Tess Kenney. And I am the founder of the Mycelium Mysteries Conference, a women's mushroom conference. And our next conference is going to be happening on September, well, really 21st through the 25th, because we have some pre-conference workshops. The main conference is the 22nd through the 25th, but the pre-conference workshops, some of them will be happening on Thursday, September 21st. And I invited Rose and Tess to come and talk to us about their workshop that is really intriguing to me. It's called Walking with Beatrix Potter, a fun art foray with an emphasis on analysis and species identification. And my understanding is that you all are going to go into the woods and look for mushrooms with the eye of an artist, the way that Beatrix Potter did, using her senses and going into the woods and collecting specimens and then studying them through drawing them. So this seems like an amazing opportunity. And I was really hoping the two of you could talk about what people might expect as they come into this workshop and participate. And this is a description of the workshop. It is on our website at myceliummysteries.com. So if you're interested in reading more about it and registering, you can go there. And I'm going to turn it over to Tess and Rose to start talking about the workshop. And I may interject with some questions here and there. So, and Tess, if you would like to, I'll stop sharing this screen. I know you have some other visuals to share with us as well. So let's go from there. So welcome, Tess and Rose.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having both of us. So the idea for this workshop really came about when Rose and I were talking about, just women in mycology, and we were trying to kind of wrap our heads around like how to work with women who are new to mycology, or even women who aren't new to mycology. And we started talking about Beatrix. And a lot of people don't know that Beatrix was a scientist before she ever did all of her illustrations for her children's books. And so here's a picture of Beatrix in 1885 with her little mouse. And she was just interested in all things. And
You're not screen sharing.
Oh, I'm not. Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought I did. Okay, hang on.
I know, I was getting really excited. There we go.
There she is. There she is with her little sweet. I think its name was Raffi. I think that was.
Yeah, and this is an interesting photo of her because she had just cut her hair short because she had been really sick with like rheumatoid fever and had been ill that whole year, and her hair had fallen out as part of her illness. So this is her when she's in her late teens.
Yeah, she was like, I think around 14 or 15.
Yeah, something like that.
So I guess one of the things that really I felt very connected to her in regard to how she studied mycology, because we are starting to look at the research now in terms of how our brain, we have neurogenesis when we do observational drawing. And there's so much information around that that we always suspected was true, but we could never prove it. And so Beatrix was sort of the forerunner. She went out there, collected specimens, and then very carefully decided to draw and paint them. So here's one of her drawings. And there you can see her watercolor over the top. Just absolutely precious and gorgeous. And it was all, look at, here's the little ovum. I mean, just incredible. And so that was how she learned. That was how she started to memorize the species, by going and like drawing them over and over again and coming up with these gorgeous images. Here's another.
She was actually really interested in every branch of natural science, but she was fortunate to have a couple of good mentors in mycology early on. She was introduced to Charlie McIntosh, who was this like kind of well-known naturalist in Scotland, and they met on one of her summer holidays, and then they corresponded for years, and he would send her specimens in the mail and she would illustrate them and send him back the illustrations, and he would critique them, and he taught her, you know, how to slice specimens, to do cross sections, and how to illustrate from the microscope, and all these things that really improved her skills. And he taught her taxonomy as well. And interestingly, later on, when she illustrated the Peter Rabbit books, she used him as the basis for Mr. McGregor, who was like the farmer that was always trying to eat the rabbits. It was based on this guy that she had been corresponding with. So that was kind of a fun little tidbit about her. But
a question in relationship to the workshop, because I'm wondering some of what you described about her process. I'm imagining you're going to take people through, the women who participate through a similar process. And I'm wondering if you could just talk about what women can expect in terms of that experience.
Well, so this image, Tess, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tess.
Is that Rose is an illustrator, and I have 30 years of teaching on the university level in drawing and painting, as well as even graphic design in other areas. So we are not worried about if you can draw, because we are going to get you there. We know how to get you there. So that should not be a precursor of like, oh, I can only draw stick figures. No, this will be an exploratory process. You're going to take your time. Rose is in the process of building these wonderful little notebooks that you'll all get. And the one thing that's super cool about this workshop is that Rose has created dyes, watercolors that are literally made from mushroom pigments. And so that's what we're going to be using. And I'm creating little palettes for you that you'll be able to take home with. And so every step of the way, we're going to be there for you to help you. And so there'll be some drawing. After we get back with our specimens, we will photograph them. We're actually bringing in a printer so that if you feel like your specimens somewhat gotten degraded and you want to go with what the photograph that you may have gotten in the woods, then we'll have that as a format, you know, a reference for you. So we're going to take care of you. Rosie,
that is so great to hear, and so important and so encouraging, because you hear people say all the time, I don't know how to draw. But if you having the support of people who, and I know from taking botanical illustration courses myself, when you have a good teacher, they do get you there. So I love that you said that, because I think it's really true, I'm sure.
Did you want to add talk a little bit about this specimen, Rose?
This is some hygrophorus that she illustrated, and you can kind of see the cross sections here, which was just guidance that that McIntosh gave her early on, like do the cross section so you can see the gill attachment, and you know, just basic keys for identification that she learned through observation and illustrating. And we'll be teaching that as well. But you know, it's also going to be a foray. You know, we're walking in the woods, but we'll be identifying everything that we see, and we'll probably find waxy caps like these because they're going to be very common in Wisconsin in September. So, but we'll find other things. Anything we find, we will we'll identify them, and they'll show you how you can identify them through observation, and then we'll illustrate the way she would have. Basically what she would have done on one of her own forays.
And we'll photograph them too. So like, this is a really great picture because you can see it there in the grass, the way it would be in its natural habitat. And then you also see over to the side where she, you know, so she probably, I would guess that this particular illustration, she took this paper with her into the woods, did the illustration in the woods, and then came back and then did the cross sections and so forth, the undergill, you know, so that you could see all the parts much better.
It even looks like she illustrated the spores in the bottom there. That's really interesting.
That's amazing.
She did a lot of microscopy, actually. She had microscopes and she studied. Honestly, she was one of the first people to germinate spores and grow them. I think someone in Germany was doing it or had theorized about it, and she could actually read German. She was I don't know if she was fluent, but she was pretty knowledgeable in German, and she had read all of these descriptions, and no one had been doing it. It was all theoretical, and she tried it. And that's kind of one of the amazing things. Like, she did that before any other scientists really were doing it, and it was dismissed at the time because she just didn't have a scientific background. She was considered an amateur. But I totally segued here, but
no, but she really, as you're talking, and as I've held the space and looked for women to present and share at our conference, which is focused on highlighting women's voices, looking for the grandmothers of mycology, she obviously is one of the grandmothers.
No, I love that so much. It's like I feel like when I, during pandemic, and I'll show these paintings in just a minute real quickly, but during pandemic, when everything was locked down and nobody was going out and doing anything, and I just wanted to keep learning more and more and more about mycology, I went back and went to all the old photographs that I had taken in the woods when we'd gone to Northwoods Foray and different places, and I started painting them. And I felt like I was completely channeling Beatrix, like, and so,
yeah.
and I was so, I mean, I can't tell you how satisfying and it was a great challenge, but at the same time, I learned so much.
And I just
And
wanted to
that's what
backtrack, and I wanted to add, because I talked about her germinating spores and how no one was really doing it. I just want to say, the illustration that you chose as the cover illustration on the website, the Flammulina volutipes, those are actually the first spores she germinated were from that mushroom. So that's
nice.
kind of a neat little fact there.
Well, and
That
that's
is
the thing that's been so cool about. So this is the very first time in the world that this kind of a workshop that I know of is being presented in the way that we're presenting it. So this is really, really special because it's just not been done this particular way. And with both of our enthusiasm towards Beatrix and her history, we're hoping to impart that to the participants and
your
really
enthusiasm and your experience, because you're both experienced mycologists and you're both artists, and I think you are the perfect women to hold this space and offer this workshop and bring this theme. I was so excited when you're bringing this theme into this particular conference, as because I know you may offer it other places eventually, but it just feels like it really fits really well.
Yeah, and
especially
we're developing it. We're developing it just for Mycelium Mysteries. So this will be the first time us dropping, and it's not just this pre-conference. It's kind of, we've made it thematic throughout the weekend with all the workshops we're doing. Now, if you go back to those ones you just had on the screen, the Stromylomyces, these are the common name is Old Man of the Woods, and these are really interesting because when she discovered them at that time in where she was, they were considered extremely rare. And in fact, McIntosh, who was her mentor at the time, said he had never actually seen them in the wild before. He knew what they were from field guides and books and his own studies, but he had never seen one. But the interesting thing is, these are something you're very likely to find in Wisconsin in September, weirdly.
Yeah,
so there's a good chance we'll find it during the conference and we can illustrate it. But at the time, it was really groundbreaking for her because it was described to her as a very, very rare, uncommon mushroom, which it might have been, where she was at the time. But I know that in Wisconsin, it's not particularly uncommon. But Wisconsin is really unique. There's a lot of species there that are locally common, but very rare elsewhere.
And I do want to add that we are going to supply all the materials that you're going to need in order to do this project. The only thing that you'll have to supply would be a basket. Other than that, for your specimens. But other than that, we will supply everything, including specimen bags and all of the art materials and the notebooks and everything that's going to go with it. So
they don't even really need to bring a basket. If they just want to bring themselves, we're gonna pick you and I will have baskets. One of the really nice things we're working on is all the participants are going to get a really nice field journal that are I'm hand making all of these field journals so that you can take notes in the field, you can do field illustrations, and you can also use it kind of as a a scrapbook or an art journal later on, or through the whole weekend. You can keep it for the whole weekend and write your thoughts throughout the weekend and have it as a memento. And then anything we illustrate on the watercolor paper, you can put it into that as well if you want. So
this is so exciting. And I just want to say to people who are listening, if you hear the passion and the care that these two women are putting into this workshop, and if you have ever taken a workshop from someone who is that enthusiastic and cares that much, the deep dive that is going to happen just because of that they're so passionate about this, you really don't want to miss this workshop. I'm so excited and just love how much you care about this topic and how much you're investing in this. It really means a lot.
It's going to be fun.
Here's some of the images that I did during pandemic, and I'm just going to.
So these are your illustrations.
Yeah, these are actually oil paintings. We're going to be doing watercolor and graphite, a little bit closer to what Beatrix did, but I just wanted to kind of go through to say you're in good hands. We're going to take care of you. And there's a little bit the way these were photographed. You can see the oil. You know, there's some glistening on there. So I apologize for that. This one was really, remember this photo? Do you remember this when we took this?
I think I do. Yeah, that was from Northwoods.
Right. And we were on, what was it? Madeline Island, right? At the park. And it was raining cats and dogs. And we were just like,
and it was my birthday.
Yes. And it was so filled with rain that these little beautiful little black trumpets here filled with water. And this is a reflection of the tree above. So it was
it was a torrential downpour. We almost got trapped on the island because they were going to stop the ferries because it was so stormy.
Yeah, we were really worried. And you can see as I continued to paint, I got better. You know, it's like I just started to get more and more into it.
You know, it's also, it forces you to learn what these are too, because, you know, it's one thing to see something in the field and take a photo, but when you're studying it and you're illustrating it, you just want to learn more about it. And, you know, you have to study all of these features that you might not really look at normally as you're painting it.
Right, you notice detail that you would never see before.
You notice detail you never would have noticed. Yeah.
These are beautiful. And I want to mention, Tess, I know some of your paintings are going to be on display at the conference over the weekend as well, which I'm really excited about. So some of these paintings, for those of you who are coming for the whole weekend, you'll get to meet them live and in person.
They're beautiful in person. The online images don't do it justice.
No, they really don't.
And Beatrix did dabble in oils, but she really preferred watercolor as her medium. And it's really good for field journaling too. It's a very portable medium. So that's what we're going to be mostly working with. And in her time, you know, she would have developed a lot of her own paints. She would have made a lot of her paints herself because that was kind of the norm back then. It's something that is not really done so much anymore. Most people buy their watercolor paints commercially, but I will be bringing some homemade watercolor paints. We will have commercial paints as well, but I'm bringing some that I've made from different minerals, as well as paints made from mushrooms, because that is a thing. There's a lot of pigments that are derived from mushrooms, and it's most people dye fiber with them, but you can create paint with them as well. So we will be painting with mushrooms
All right, I'm going to stop sharing.
So gosh, we've covered so many things and talked about so many things and showed so many great images and so much enthusiasm. Is there any last thing you want to say to somebody who's contemplating whether they should, you know, invest their time in the day to take this journey?
Well, if you're like me, I'm not a person who memorizes Latin very well. I try, that's just not my wheelhouse. But to see the imagery and then to like start to, you know, bring the Latin in, it has helped me with my Latin and helped me with a lot more about, like, you know, again, just like the habitat and all the different pieces that I want to learn about the mushroom. And I can't stress enough that those people who have that fear, and they're new, this is just a wonderful, wonderful way to have an introduction, and then also to learn about Beatrix.
And see, I love Latin and taxonomy. But one thing I really appreciate about Beatrix Potter is she never saw art and science as mutually exclusive. To her, they went hand in hand. And that's really how I've always lived my life, as a mycology enthusiast and forager, but also as a professional illustrator. I really connected with her on that level, and really made me really excited to develop this immersive workshop. And I really truly believe anyone who joins us, they're going to have like a world-changing, life-changing experience. You're going to love it. And we're a couple of fun ladies to hang out with too. So you'll learn
Yeah.
a lot and have a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So this is going to be a pre-conference workshop on Thursday, September 21st, as part of the Mycelium Mysteries Conference. And it is a workshop focused on going out into the woods, but also illustrating mushrooms. And I think you'll agree, as you've listened to this recording, that it's going to be a really magical day. So thank you, ladies, for being here and for offering this. And we look forward to seeing you in September.
Thank you so